All right, let's just dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some absolutely fascinating insights from futurist Tanaibol about the reality we're all living in right now. She calls it the strange 2026 AI waiting game. Think about it. For a whole year, we were bombarded with headlines saying artificial intelligence was going to wipe out white-collar work. Whole industries were supposed to just vanish overnight. But as we dig into her analysis today, you'll see why this transition is actually way more complex, a lot more hidden, and honestly, a lot more interesting than any of those doomsday predictions make it out to be.
I mean, you've heard the warnings, right? You've probably felt that low-level anxiety. And yet, you look around your office or your Zoom screen and realize, hey, you and your coworkers haven't been replaced by robots yet. The unemployment numbers definitely haven't fallen off a cliff. Life kind of looks exactly the same. And that creates this incredibly strange tension. It leaves so many of us wondering, did the hype just fizzle out? Is AI just another tool, like email or Slack? Sure, it's useful, maybe a little disruptive, but it's not going to take our jobs, right? A huge chunk of the workforce is sitting exactly right there, stuck in this weird waiting game.
So moving into section 1, the calm before the storm, and looking at the iceberg's tip. To really wrap our heads around this tension we're feeling, we have to look at the current economy like a massive iceberg. The real danger, but also the real opportunity, is completely hidden underwater right now. And history totally has a way of repeating itself here. Remember, right before the 2008 financial crisis hit, unemployment numbers didn't just instantly spike. The early cracks were forming in places most people just literally weren't looking.
Which brings us to the stark contrast of what's happening right now. On the surface, things look perfectly fine. Unemployment is stable, and hey, you might even be knocking off an hour early on Friday because you used AI to blast through your emails. But under the hood, the engine is quietly being completely rebuilt. Companies are subtly freezing their junior hires. They aren't doing one-to-one layoffs to swap a human for a bot. Instead, they are fundamentally redesigning the whole structure of their organizations from the ground up for the AI age. They're taking mountains of capital away from traditional labor budgets and just pouring it straight into AI infrastructure.
And this gives us a much better, much more realistic timeline. The truth is, we are vastly overestimating this short-term job collapse, but we are completely underestimating the radical transformation that's going to hit over the next decade. Over a 3-year horizon, we're mostly going to see this hidden disruption, changes in how companies do their structural planning. By year 7, the entire knowledge economy starts a massive reconfiguration around cheap, accessible intelligence. And looking 10 years down the line, we hit general-purpose adoption. At that point, our day-to-day workflows are going to be practically unrecognizable.
Okay, but before you start panicking about those unrecognizable workflows, let's just ground ourselves in a little bit of history. Check out this number, 60%. Roughly 60% of the occupations that exist today literally did not exist 80 years ago. Just think about that for a second. If you tried to explain to a Victorian factory worker in 1850 that your exhausting, high-paid job was to build Microsoft Excel sheets to predict what teenagers in another country might buy, they would look at you like you had 2 heads. They'd probably tell you to shut up and go shovel some coal. Human adaptability is honestly our greatest historical superpower. We will absolutely invent entirely new ways to work. All right, section 2, under the AI hood. To survive this shift, we absolutely have to separate the sci-fi hype from the actual reality. If we don't understand how the machine actually works, there's no way we can figure out how to work alongside it. So here is your crucial reality check. Those large language models, the LLMs that are generating your weekly reports and writing your code, they are not conscious entities plotting in some data center down in Memphis. They really aren't even complex reasoning machines. They are just highly sophisticated prediction engines. They crunch massive amounts of data to find patterns, and then they literally just predict the next word in a sequence so that it sounds right. They are completely optimized to sound human because they were trained on human language. But guys, they don't actually understand what they're saying.
And because these things are just prediction engines and not actual humans, companies are having to adapt in very specific ways. Job requirements are shifting hard. We're moving away from manual number crunching and pivoting straight into AI directing. They desperately need people who can use actual human judgment to guide these systems. And interestingly enough, experts are already prepping for a potential ceiling on what current LLMs can even do. They're seeing diminishing returns, where throwing more data at the models just doesn't make them much smarter anymore. Because of that, the smart money is heavily shifting into physical world assets, investing in the massive amounts of water and energy it actually takes to cool and power these giant data centers.
Which brings us to a massive, critical warning in Section 3, the cognitive atrophy trap. Relying too heavily on these prediction engines introduces a deeply personal, totally hidden structural risk.
And honestly, this could threaten your career way more than any tech layoff ever could. This quote just nails the danger perfectly. Think about it. If you were driving today and your passenger pulled out a giant folding paper map to give you directions, you'd probably tell them to put it away and just pull up their phone, right? We have completely 100% offloaded our spatial navigational skills to GPS. Well, the futurist asked a pretty chilling question. What happens when we do that with our actual thinking? Our brains are biologically hardwired to save energy, so it is incredibly tempting to just outsource our critical reasoning to the path of least resistance. And that temptation creates what she calls the atrophy pipeline. It starts out super innocently. Step 1. You feed the AI some half-formed, fragmented thoughts just to save yourself 20 minutes on a Tuesday. Step 2. The output sounds so highly articulate because, again, it's literally designed to sound right that you just start blindly accepting it without interrogating it. But step 3 is where the real damage is done. You gradually start losing your own confidence to make independent decisions. If you fall into this trap, you aren't just outsourcing your busy work, you're outsourcing your judgment, your discernment, and ultimately, the real core value that you actually bring to the market.
So let's pivot to Section 4, the independent work era. This is basically the end of the corporate ladder, and it's the absolute climax of the futurist forecasts on how the day-to-day structure of our work lives is about to change.
Look, the traditional career model is dying. That whole idea of climbing a vertical ladder, having a singular job title, and staying loyal to one company until they hand you a gold watch at retirement, that is fading out fast. In its place, the independent era is taking over. In this new world, you're going to operate as an organization of one. Instead of a job title, you are a bundled set of skills. You'll work on short-term contracts, maybe 12 to 18 months at a time, and you'll dynamically apply your specific expertise across a bunch of different projects and companies.
So the big takeaway here for you? You have got to stop identifying with your job title. Take a step back and really analyze how you think. Let's say you're an email marketer. If an AI agent can suddenly generate copy and run an entire campaign faster than you, panic might set in, right? But if you look under the hood of your own brain, you might realize your real skill was never typing out emails. Your real skill is applying deep psychological insight to consumer behavior. That specific type of human judgment is incredibly transferable. You could take that exact same thought process and use it to direct AI systems in HR, hiring, or financial strategy. Your title might disappear, sure, but your underlying human skills are going to remain in ridiculously high demand. Okay, so how do we get out of this anxiety spiral and actually empower ourselves? That's Section 5, Reclaiming Your AI Agency. This is how you become totally irreplaceable.
I absolutely love this quote right here. Nothing about the future is inevitable. AI is a design space. It is so easy to feel completely powerless right now. You watch these massive tech giants hit $3 trillion valuations, and it feels like the future is just being decided for you in a boardroom somewhere. But we have to remember, this transition is not predetermined. We have agency. We literally shape the future by how we choose to spend our time, where we put our dollars, and how we engage with our local policies. We are definitely not just passengers on this ride.
To thrive going forward, you've got to aggressively build out your enduring human toolkit. Let the AI crunch the data and spit out the text drafts. You bring the deep problem solving. You bring the human judgment to actually know if the machine's output makes sense in the real world. Think about it. In a future flooded with sterile, automated AI agents, your emotional intelligence and relational skills are going to be valued at a massive premium. Because at the end of the day, people still want to work with cool, empathetic humans. And above all, you need adaptability. You have to master the art of learning how to learn. You're going to use AI not to replace your intellect, but to direct it with the kind of high-level context a machine just doesn't have.
And that brings us to the ultimate question I want to leave you with today. As we navigate what is arguably the biggest industrial shift of our lifetimes, the choice is entirely in your hands. Are you going to sit back, let cognitive atrophy take over, and allow AI to slowly become your replacement? Or are you going to actively cultivate your human judgment, sharpen your critical thinking, and use this wild new technology as a springboard to completely elevate your potential? The era of the independent worker is knocking at the door. Don't just wait around for the storm to hit. Start designing your irreplaceable future today.